Hello, today I'm going to be doing a cassette collection video because it's a record collection and vinyl collection. And I have a lot of cassettes, not a lot, but a decent amount of cassettes too, so I thought, why not show these off, especially when I have not much to do right now. Before I get into the collection of about, I'd say 30 to 40, give or take, cassettes, I have some back in my actual house, but these are the ones I brought to my dorm, which are basically all the ones I enjoy. The ones back at my house are kind of knick-knacky almost. Before we get into that, I'll go over first the cassette playing supplies I have. First is this shitty portable cassette player. I bought this because it was like 30 bucks. And as you can see, it has a play button. Pretty sure it's a fast forward button, and then a pause button or eject stop button. First off, the volume. Where's the volume? The volume dial right here. It already broke, so I can't adjust the volume at all when I'm using this. It is a radio too, actually, so that's kind of cool, I guess. But then again, I don't really want to listen to the radio. Yeah, the quality of this when it plays back the sound, not great compared to an actual cassette player or the one I have. I'll show in a second. And you have to load it manually, which is expected, I guess, for 30 bucks. Like, it's 30 bucks, I'm not going to complain too much about it, but, no, like, rewind button, which is odd. So it's annoying that, and sometimes with some of these cassettes, like, they don't restart, so you have to rewind it manually. So using this can be annoying sometimes, because I won't be able to rewind it, so I can't listen to, like, the same side again if I wanted to. So that's kind of annoying. But yeah, the Jensen, 30 bucks, not bad for 30 bucks, but I used it like 4 times before it kind of started messing up, and I might use it again at some point, but really I don't see myself coming back to it too often. But for 30 bucks, it's not bad, and didn't ruin any of my cassettes or tapes, which is nice. And they come with these headphones, which are kind of nice actually. I kind of enjoyed them for what they were, except the sound quality isn't great, but that's more to the cassette player and not the headphones, and doesn't really contain sound, as you can tell. So if you're walking around like outside, it's fine, but if you're like inside and trying to listen to something and you can't adjust the sound at all and it's loud, then it can be kind of annoying to other people, and I don't really want to like blast my music to other people, so I don't use it that much anymore. But for 30 bucks, it's not bad. Next I have what I use to listen to my actual cassettes. Let me see if I can get some light on this. One second. It's maybe smart to actually do this. So you can actually see what you're looking at. Sony. It's a radio and a cassette player actually, so that's kind of nice. I forget the name, but it's a CFM10 radio cassette quarter. And so my sister had one of these, and so I just bought the same model because I used it a lot, and I thought it was pretty good. And it's worked very well so far. I had it for about a month. I bought it used off eBay for 20 bucks, so especially for the price range, I cannot complain about it at all. But the one thing that's this, at least, the pause button doesn't work. It broke like a month after I started using it, which of course has been used before, so I guess it's been used for a while. But that was kind of annoying. This is the pause button. I was pressing the wrong button. But the pause button broke, which is kind of annoying. But to stop it, I just press the stop button, and it's basically the same thing as pause. It's not really ruining any cassettes or anything, so it's not that big of a deal. So I don't mind that. But sound-wise, it's very good. Pretty good, at least for a cassette player. A cheap one, $20 one, so I can't complain at all about it. Here, I'll play a little bit. To spend, and I guess I'd be with you, my friend. Yeah, as you can tell, the sound is actually very good. I prefer like cassette sounds, and especially I don't really use Spotify that much anymore. I prefer just using cassettes or vinyl record player for my house, but I'm not in my house right now, so this is really easy. It's very portable too if I want to like bring it out to a park or something. Very easy to bring around, and cassettes obviously pretty small, so if it's for like a small bag or a backpack, very easy to bring around. And it's a radio too. I never really used the radio like I was saying before, so I can't really account for how good the radio is. But I mean, this pretty small, portable, sound is great, very easy to adjust. It's not good. The sound isn't gonna break on you like it did with the other one. So yeah, very happy with this. I haven't recorded any tapes on here. Haven't done that before, but maybe I'll try one day. But so far, for playing my cassettes, it's worked out very well. Highly recommend. You can get for like $20 on eBay, so not a bad steal at all. And like cassette players especially are very hard to find today, and the good ones are like $80, $100. So like, I don't feel like spending that much money on a cassette player, and especially for this that works so well, there's no point. So I'll get into my cassettes now. Let's see how many are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, so 24. I was off by quite a few. Yeah, give or take 24 I have on me, so it's not that many, but it'll be a nice quick video collection. So first we have the Jam Modern World. This is the Modern World. The Jam, I like the Jam. They're very like influential British band, you know, especially back in the 70s, early 80s. They're probably like the biggest British band out there. A lot of hits. Town Called Malice, That's Entertainment. I first heard them for their song That's Entertainment. Really liked it, and I listened to a couple of their albums. But this one I haven't listened to before, and I was at the local record store, and I found a Jam album, and I was like, oh, well, might as well get it. It's like $2, since cassettes are usually pretty cheap, a lot cheaper than vinyls. That's kind of why, another reason I started getting into them, because I started spending so much money on vinyls, and it just wasn't worth it financially to a certain extent. And so I listened to this album. It's pretty good. Haven't listened to it that much, so it's not that, I haven't stuck in my head that much, but there's a reason they're so popular and are so popular. So highly recommend this album. I need to give it a little more listens to have like a final formative thought about it, but it's good, definitely. Next, I haven't taken the price tag off at $3. So you see usually around $3 to $5 depending what album you're getting. So Nick Lowe, pretty big British artist, very influential. Not talked about a lot today, which is kind of interesting because he's definitely he was big, and his sound is, I think at least, was pretty ahead of its time. Yeah, Nick Lowe Basher. It's just a best of Nick Lowe compilation. Again, I find almost all of them. I found them at a store. I ordered a couple online, but most of them I found a local record store. So I just kind of get what I can get. And yeah, I love Nick Lowe. I listened to his album Labor of Lust, which I listened to first. I bought it because I like the song Cruel to Be Kind, and I was kind of excited just to listen to it for that song. But I listened to the album, the whole thing altogether, a couple times. It's actually a really complete, very solid album. So I was very pleasantly surprised, and I've kind of slowly listened to his work. I'm not going to pretend I'm some Nick Lowe aficionado, but his work is definitely very intriguing and very fun to listen to. And on here, it's kind of his best hits. So, Cruel to Be Kind, Heart, 7 Nights to Rock. It's kind of it's a long compilation, so it's definitely worth $3. I listened to it a couple times. It's pretty good. Yeah, I enjoy it. For what it is. Next up, I don't have the cassette in here because it's in the player, but the Beatles, Rubber Soul. I have this one on vinyl too. I already talked about it, so I won't go too in depth with it. But yeah, found it in my local record store. Rubber Soul, favorite Beatles album. One of my favorite albums in general. What else to say about this album? Just an incredibly solid folk rock album. Every single song, it's 3 minutes long. Each one is so incredibly catchy. I don't like Michelle that much, but it's okay. So that's the only song I don't like that much. But I mean, I can't really have any complaints about this album. One of my favorites, so catchy, so influential. And I was actually in a park the other day, and a guy was playing Norwegian Wood on his guitar, and that was very nice. And yeah, very solid album. And the cassette, no problems running this, even though it's pretty old, as you can tell. Sound quality is still great. And it's interesting also, he's no Murakami, he's such a big Beatles fan, especially off this album. Norwegian Wood, and then Drive My Car, obviously another short story that's based off of it, the movie too, which is based off a collection of short stories from the Murakami book Men with That Woman anthology short story series. Next we have Coração de Passaro. I bought this because I like the front of it, the little cassette holder. Listened to it once fully through, and it's a lot of noise, kind of the bossa nova-ish synth a bit. It's kind of all over the place, so I can't really have a strong opinion on it right now. But I like what I listen to a certain extent. You have to be definitely in a mood to listen to it, but the album cover is really great, So I definitely have to give it another listen sometime soon. But from what I remember, it's solid, Not exactly my thing, but it's good to have, variety. Next we have No Dream, Jeff Rosenstock. Hell Mode's one of my favorite albums over the past couple of years, and I wanted to get more into Jeff Rosenstock as an artist. And so I figured I was on eBay one day and I found No Dream, and it's pretty cheap. So I was like, why not get that instead of just getting Hell Mode again. And it's good. It's a lot of ska, kind of punk-ish, kind of more punk pop, like heavy punk. And I like it a lot. His voice is really unique, and his lyrics are all pretty humorous, or at least like very reflective. I listened to it a couple times, so I can't be like fully conclusive on my opinion of it. But it's good, definitely good, solid. No Dream. Mac DeMarco, This Little Dog. I'm not the biggest Mac DeMarco fan, but I found this at my local record store, and I kind of want to get some newer stuff because a lot of cassettes, a lot of them are older albums because like no one really prints cassettes anymore or makes them anymore. So I got this, and it's a decent album. I don't think it's his best stuff, but I really like what's the song? The what is it called? The Baby You're Out. That's good. Moonlight on the River. Yeah, that's kind of like why I got this album, because that's a really good song of his. I listened to it a couple times, and honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of the sound. I think it can be pretty repetitive at times, for me at least. But it's a solid album, definitely. Good music to have on in the background when I'm doing something else. Not my favorite album by him, by any means, but it's definitely like a fun listen. And he's Canadian, which is kind of cool. Next, I had to take the back off of this, which we'll see in a second why, or soon-ish why. Pressure Release. This is just like I got from a local record store, like kind of like a punk metal band. Not much to say about it, just kind of like fun punk. Not much like heavy metal, kind of noise-ish. Don't exactly know what to call it, but yeah, it's fun. As you can see, it's kind of like locally made, so the sound quality isn't amazing, but it's not bad by any means. So yeah, enjoy it, but Pressure Release, but not one of my favorites by any means. And next up we have Chappell Roan. What's the album called? The Princess of the Midwest, Ballad of a Princess. You know what it is. Everyone knows what this is. But yeah, same thing. Found it at a local record store, and it was like $16, which is a little expensive for a cassette. I was kind of hesitant about buying it, but I figured, it's a good album. I like the album a lot. Not really my type of music, like pop, kind of very like not hyper pop. It's not hyper pop by any means, but it's like very like hyper, very enthusiastic, very energized, which I usually listen to that stuff a lot. But it's a solid album, definitely, for sure. Definitely a reason why Chappell Roan got so big. She's very talented. Some of the songs I feel kind of sound very similar to each other, so it's kind of hard to distinguish some of them, but there's no doubt that so much like love and energy was put into these songs that like it's kind of hard not to appreciate it. One thing I don't like about this is that it's almost like, I don't know if it was printed or made before or after she got big, so I don't make any assumptions, but I'm pretty sure this came out pretty recently, so I think it was made after she got so big. But first off, hard to tell the title of the album, but The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. But there's no track list on here, which is kind of annoying, so it's kind of like assuming already know every song. And it's like wrapped up too, so you can't just take it out. Even when you take it out, no track list, which is kind of annoying. I kind of expected to release a track list. Like, I don't know if it's like she's expecting you to already know all the songs already, which I don't. I'm sorry. I know most of them, but especially not the order, because I listen to her that much, And even on the cassette, there's no, like, side 1, side 2, so that's kind of annoying. You don't know which side you're playing when you put it in. So, like, if you want to listen to a specific song, you don't know where you're getting. So that's kind of annoying. Because there are a few songs which are, like, more than others on here, like, Casual is a good one, Phenomenon, Hot to Go, Pink Pony Club. It's a good album, by no means, and a lot of the songs are fun to listen to. Like, there's no songs on here, like, I really don't like. But I think the packaging is kind of annoying. Although the cassette is cool, but I wish there was at least a track list, or at least side 1, side 2, so I can tell which side I'm playing. So a solid album, and I'm happy I got it. Next we have Clearwater Revival. They're such an influential band, and this is just like a compilation, I'm pretty sure. And so, I have a single of Bad Moon Rising at my house, and I like a lot of their songs, Fortunate Son, Bad Moon Rising. Honestly, that's the only songs I really know by them. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some big Creedence Clearwater Revival aficionado. And it's from 1976, actually. This is pretty old. Um, but yeah, I want to get more into them. I like a lot of their big songs, so I don't see any reason why I wouldn't like any of their other stuff. So I'm excited to listen to this. Next, Beach House Depression Cherry. I got it because, I mean, the packaging is really cool. It's a blank cassette holder, and it's just like the cool cassette tape red, you know. I never really listened to Beach House that much. Obviously, I've heard like the bigger songs like Space Song, you know, or some of the other stuff. But I figured, you know, might as well give a listen to the full album. And it's very good, very atmospheric, you know, like Space Song is definitely not like an outlier on the album in terms of like sound. So it's good to just like kind of like sit down or like relax and listen to it. It's like very like, I feel like you can either be very immersed in it or you could also be doing something, just have it on the background, and it works great in both ways. So very solid. Yeah, I recommend it. Nice little ride. Next, Aztec Camera. Haven't listened to Aztec Camera before buying this, but I mean, obviously Craig Gannon, who went on to be one of the guitarists for the Smiths for a short period of time, he was like the lead guitarist of Aztec Camera, and I read a good book about the Smiths called There Is a Light That Never Goes Out. Yeah. And it mentions Aztec Camera too as kind of like one of the budding bands around that time. I think RCA signed them too. I think after the Smiths, I'm pretty sure. But they're kind of like up and coming too, but they never really got to the heights of the Smiths. And I saw it at my local record store, and I was like, oh, cool, Aztec Camera. And I think this is like a live performance. Yeah, live at the Dominion Theatre in London, 1984. And so I listened to it like once, and so I don't really remember a lot of it. But for I remember, it's like good, you know, like British rock, Brit rock, 80s, like new wave almost. So I mean, it's pretty enjoyable, and this is kind of interesting link to the Smiths, you know. So next, The Queen is Dead. Don't have it on vinyl, so I figured I went on eBay and at least got it on cassette, so I'd have at least on one form of listening. And I mean, there's a reason why it's called like their best album. Do I think it's their best album? No, I think Meatus Murder is their best album, but The Queen is Dead is definitely up there, and it's definitely a perfect album, like Meatus Murder. But I just prefer Meatus Murder more. But yeah, Queen is Dead, perfect album. Every song on here is just like, it just gets better and better, you know. I don't think it's by any means like some albums, you know, like one side, A side is better than the B side, you know, but or the first half's better than the second half. But this is just like hit after hit. Queen is Dead, Frankly Mr. Shankly, I Know It's Over, Never Had No One Ever, Cemetery Gates. Like that's just the first side, and that's like 5 of their best songs of all time. Just on one side. Second side, Big Mouth Strikes Again, The Boy with the Thorn in His Side, Vicar in a Tutu, There's a Light That Never Goes Out, Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others. I think also what makes this album so good is that a lot of variation, you know, it's not like all depressing, like Never Had No One Ever, but a lot of like a few upbeats in between, like Frankly Mr. Shankly, Big Mouth Strikes Again. Especially the second side is a lot more upbeat, besides like There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, which is like melancholic, but not like I Know It's Over levels of sad, more like yearning than like depression, you know. So it's a lot of variation, and I think, you know, like for like people that say all Smith songs sound the same, I think that's for like someone who just listens to like 2 Smith songs. Listen to this because it's a lot of variation, you know, almost like Stoner-esque with Never Had No One Ever, and then Boy with a Thorn in His Side. So it's just like up. All this almost looked like a Nazi salute. I wasn't trying to do that, but like, it's just a lot of variation, you know. Cemetery Gates, one of my favorite Smith songs, just like such a clever song, and like so many of these lines I just think of every single day. Like, if you must write prose and poems, the words you should be your own. It's like so hilarious considering the context, and like there's a reason why it's one of the best albums of all time. So influential. Second favorite album from them, and just amazing work all around. Next, getting a little bit into the Morrissey collection. I'm sorry, World of Morrissey. Go closer. It's from the Boxers music video. Yeah, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I love Morrissey. A little ashamed maybe, but you know, I think his solo career is overlooked because of how decisive he is. But I think his solo career has been overall pretty good. Not pretty good, good. Newer stuff, obviously, his last like albums over the last 10 years have all been pretty shit. I'm not gonna lie. Especially his latest one. Like, I was listening to Jim Falls the other day, and it was just like, what the fuck is this? I think it's kind of like the one thing is that he can never really have a stable band for too long. But when he does get that, especially like in the '90s with like Your Arsenal, Kill Uncle, and then Vauxhall and I, when you have that progression, Kill Uncle was decent. Your Arsenal pretty good, and then Vauxhall and I, which is like one of his best albums, really good. When he has that stable band with him, he can make some really good stuff. But then when he's changing it around so much, and Alan White is a consistent songwriter over the years, but I mean, just having that changing like background is not good for anyone. I think almost also Alan White is not as he's definitely not as good as a guitarist as Johnny Marr, which is no shade at all because like Johnny Marr is one of the best guitarists of the past like 100 years, so no shade in that. But I think Morrissey as a person probably plays into the decline of albums. But I mean, Morrissey early '90s, late '80s, like peak Morrissey. But I mean, obviously peaked again with the Mazasants with 2004 with "You're the Quarry," which is sensational. There's no cassettes for it though, unfortunately, because it's 2004. But let me talk about this album a little more. It's a compilation album, of course. So I don't love every song on here. I think this came out like late '90s, mid '90s, because some Vauxhall and I songs are on here. So Whatever Happens, I Love You. Okay, kind of forgettable. Billy Budd, a really good song off Vauxhall and High, one of my favorites. Jack the Ripper, arguably his best song. Have a Go Merchant. Okay, The Loop. Sister, I'm a Poet. You're the One for Me, Fatty. A lot of these songs are the same ones on his live album, Beethoven Was Deaf, which is an amazing live album. I think one of his best albums. Just really good. I'd give it a listen if you can. Second Side, Boxers, Moon River, My Love Life, Certain People I Know, Last of the Famous International Playboys, We'll Let You Know, Spring Hill Gym. So a lot of good, like, a decent amount of, like, a few good, like, well-known Morrissey songs, like his popular stuff, but a lot of also, like, deep cuts, which I appreciate, that, like, you wouldn't really get else on cassette tape. And they've opened me up more into, like, his, like, more of his solo work, because, I mean, like, he has a lot of albums, but he has a ton of singles, too. So it's, like, even if you listen to all of his albums, you're still missing out on a ton of his songs. So I appreciate this as a cassette. One bad thing with the cassette is that the first half of side one is warped. The sound is shit for some reason. So Whatever Happens, I Love You, Billy Budd, just those two actually. They're kind of fuzzy, warped a bit. I like Billy Budd a lot, which is kind of sad. But after that, the sound's all good. Jack the Ripper, yeah, it's all good after that. But I mean, especially The Loop, Sister, I'm a Poet, such like fun songs, his rockabilly, influence from Alan White. I think he really shines in that regard. I think if he did more songs like that, I like it a lot more. It kind of showed off in Kill Uncle, which I'll get to later. But, yeah, very solid compilation album. Moon River is a nice addition, too. Cover, it's like a long, like at least 6 minutes long. And he brings his own style to it, which I appreciate. Next up, Miles Davis, Sketches of Spain. I wasn't the biggest fan of this. Yeah, I was expecting more of like a hit, like with the brass and the jazz, but it felt a little like, almost like, I don't know, not that interesting. Cause I got this and I was like, oh, Miles Davis, might as well hear what he has to say about Spain, and I wasn't that impressed, honestly. Nothing like crazy, nothing like I haven't heard before, which is kind of disappointing. So I have to re-listen to it, but I wasn't amazed by it. Ooh, two of my favorite albums coming up. Alright, Morrissey, Viva Hate. Arguably, I think on the same level is his work with the Smiths. I mean, it's such a sensational album to come out with after breaking up with the Smiths, especially the name Viva Hate, so you can tell he's definitely not bitter about the Smiths breakup at all, even though it's kind of his fault, in a way. It's also a special cassette version, so it has, Ordinary Boys and Hairdresser on Fire on this, because Ordinary Boys was scrapped on like the 2014 reissue, which is sad because I like the song a lot, and Hairdresser on Fire, which was never really on the album, but in North America for some reason they put it on the cassette. So and I appreciate it because Hairdresser on Fire is his best song, maybe one of his best songs, and so I'll take it even if it's not really meant to be on the album. But yeah, Viva Hate, I mean, it starts off with Alsatian Cousin, which is such an incredible song. Vinnie Riley brings his, like, screeching guitars to this album in such a wonderful way, and it's, like, and the first song you get, you're just, like, thrown into this new sound Morrissey has. That, like, he's not trying to be the Smiths again, like Smiths Part 2. He's fully taking on his own solo career, and that I really appreciate, because he could have, like, so easily gone to, like, the same type of sound, but then he hires Stephen Street to produce it and make the arrangements. who he wanted to work with for a long time. Then he gets Vinnie Riley for the extra guitar, the extra punch, and it worked out really well. I wish he would have made more albums with Stephen Street, but Morrissey being Morrissey had a fallout of some kind with him. I remember reading it in his autobiography. I don't even remember what happened, but I just remember like one chapter being like, "Yeah, I hate this guy now." And I'm like, okay, well, okay. But yeah, Alsatian Cousin, Little Man, What Now? A lot of good like character pieces. A lot of stuff that he doesn't go back to, that he tries out in this album and he does really well, but he kind of abandons further down the line, which is disappointing. Especially the such like distinct sound. Like this is like his most distincting sound album he's ever made, and like Morrissey is known for like his lyrics and his voice, not a lot in his solo career for like the backing track, you know. But this album, I mean, you could just listen to it for like the music in the back, the guitars, the drums, everything. And that's what I really love about this album. You couldn't say the same as much for his later albums. There's like certain songs, of course, but a lot of them focus on his like witty lyrics and his very relatable lyrics, you know. So I mean, it's just such a unique album. Almost like this should not be as good as it is, considering Morrissey as a person and the circumstances around it. Like he started this album almost like a month after basically the Smiths broke up. And, you know, Every Day is Like Sunday, Bengali and Platforms, a little controversial, kind of a racist song a bit, but I do like that line, "Shelve your Western plans." Out of context. In context of the song, it's kind of gross, but out of context, I like the lyric. Angel, Angel, Down We Go Together. It's an okay song, it's like short, you know. Late Night Maudlin Street, like 8 minutes long, amazing, like almost like origin story, they call it, you know. I'm not gonna go to every song, but I mean, the Margaret on the Guillotine almost reminds me of Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others, ending-wise, you know, very like focused on the instrumental part, very almost like dreamlike. Yeah, great closing song, great album, one of my favorite albums of all time. Next, Vauxhall and I. So, like with the Pressure Release album that has a broken back, I dropped this the other day and the back broke off. So I just took that from that, which is sad. But Vauxhall and I, amazing album. This came out in 1994, which is like 2 years after Your Arsenal, which is decent, but this just kind of brings it back all together. His best album since Viva Hate, for sure. And, I mean, I think his most personal album, especially, like, in the press tour, he talked about that, like, kind of relating it, like, back to his therapy, his childhood, and it comes out especially in Now My Heart Is Full, which is, honestly, also one of his best songs. Such a personal song, and a lot of, like, hints into deeper things that he doesn't fully delve into, because I don't think Morrissey ever fully gives up himself as a person, or his ideas. It's kind of like you have to listen to it, and almost, like, try to understand what he's thinking and make your own interpretations, which I like a lot, and I think more music should do these days. I think Morrissey's kind of unique that way. Album cover's kind of funny. Not the biggest fan, but I was kind of put off by listening to this album actually because of the cover, just because it looked like so like I don't know. I don't like the way he's looking at me. But Now My Heart Is Full, Spring Hill Gym, okay, Billy Budd, amazing. Hold On to Your Friends, amazing. The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get. And this album, two of the songs, The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get, and Why Don't You Find Out For Yourself, two of his biggest hits in his whole career. One album just kind of like brought back more life into his career, just like reinstated the fact that he is one of the biggest artists of his time. And it was supposed to be his final album, but obviously that didn't happen. First side is definitely stronger than the second side, that's no doubt. But still, like, Lazy Sunbathers, Used to Be a Sweet Boy's okay. I don't dislike any songs on here, but there are definitely a few weaker ones. But overall, very solid album. Up there with his best. Keeping with Morrissey, we have Kill Uncle. Morrissey's second studio album after the compilation album Bone Drag, which is very highly received. And this, not so much. It kind of flopped. No songs in here are really, like, known for a solo career. None of them really did that well. I think it's, like, the main solo was R. Frank, which I love a lot. But none of his songs in here did well, kind of flopped. And it was kind of, like, made out to be Morrissey's, like, yeah, this guy's just kind of, like, a one-time thing, you know? Like, he's kind of fading out after this. And it's a very unique album. For better and worse. The rockabilly sound comes back in here pretty strong. King Lear especially. King Lear especially, which is such a wonderful, like, just whimsical, funny song. One of my favorite songs from Morrissey. But then R. Frank, amazing song. Singer Life pretty solid. Mute Witness, a very like unique songs. Again, like it's all over the place musically, which at times works in his favor, other times doesn't. Mute Witness really fun, very 80s, very distinct. Second side, not that amazing, not as good as the first side. Love Driving Your Girlfriend Home, but Harsh Truth with the Camera Eye, probably my least favorite Morrissey song I've ever listened to. It just goes on for way too long, doesn't have much to say, sounds like shit, don't know what he was thinking, but End of the Family Line, There's a Place in Hell for Me and My Friends, like decent melancholic Morrissey songs, but first side very solid, second side not that much, but just an interesting listen, and I like his alternative cover rather than like the American cover, which is just like him going like, I don't know what he's doing in it, but this is a much better cover, and it's kind of like Before Your Arsenal, like kind of building up that sound, Alan White and the surrounding band, and building up that sound, and you see it pay off more in Your Arsenal and Vauxhall and I. Next, Paul Simon, Rhythm of the Saints. I like Paul Simon a lot. I think he's definitely one of the best singer-songwriters of all time, probably. I don't think he gets enough recognition, honestly, because not a lot of people talk about him these days, which I guess is he's old now. He's not as big as he once was. But I mean, not my favorite Paul Simon album, but I found it, like, at a thrift store, and so I was like, well, might as well get it. Obvious Child, that's great. Cool River, Rhythm of the Saints, and pretty sure this is the one that's, like, he made with, like, that African band, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. A lot of fun sounds. The thing I love with Paul Simon, he's not afraid about experimenting and changing his sound. And he comes up with a lot of cool stuff, a lot of interesting stuff. Not my favorite album by his, but very fun. Next, Grateful Dead. It's a 2-pack album. American Beauty, their best album, one of my favorite albums, and Working Man's Dead. I haven't actually listened to the second album yet. But American Beauty, I already talked about it in my other video, but amazing album, one of the best American albums of all time. Just like kind of like I listened to the first time, my mind was blown. Yeah. So next up we have the Ink Spots compilation album. This is the best of the Ink Spots. It's a twin pack, so I guess 2 sets of the best of the Ink Spots, you could say. I love the Ink Spots. They're kind of like my favorite. I mean, like the band's like kind of ever changing. It was at least like their different iterations of the Ink Spots as time went on. But I think this one is with, I forget his name, the lead singer. What's his name? God. I should say it somewhere on here, I feel. But he doesn't. But the guy, shit, fuck. Yeah, it's pretty old too, so it's kind of flimsy. This guy. I forget his name. But I mean, the band's like changed over time, but his voice has always been the best. He's always like been known as like the original. I think they're part of the original group too, and there's a reason like he's known as the best and one of the best singers of the 20th century, I'd say. I love how each song starts with the same chords like dun 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 dun. Like at a certain point, like it gets kind of annoying because like, oh, it's this song I really like, and I realize, oh wait, this is a completely different song I never heard before. I end up enjoying it. If I Didn't Care is probably one of my favorite songs of all time. Just like the melancholic yearning in it is so beautiful, and so many good songs in here that I've never heard before. That I was able to listen to through this little cassette tape that I would have never heard before. I love I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. It's funny to everyone but me. I'll Never Smile Again, which I know Frank Sinatra did I'm pretty sure it's a cover of. I don't know if they're the ones who wrote the song originally or someone else, but I like this rendition a lot, but probably the Frank Sinatra one more. I like the Frank Sinatra like band or whatever, I forget what they're called. But yeah, really solid best of compilation. I usually listen to it when I'm writing because it just gets me in that mood very well. Very enjoyable album. Alright, 4 more left. With Rolling Stones, it's just a compilation album again, found at a local store, so I was like, might as well pick it up. I've never been that huge of a fan of the Stones. I mean, obviously they're good, obviously they're big for a reason, but I've never been that transfixed with them. This is an old cassette too, so it's a little, it sounds like pretty good, but this is the case, and it's a little wonky. But they have like all their biggest hits. I Can't Get No Satisfaction, Painted Black, I love Wild Horses. I think that's like my favorite song from them. Just like a beautiful song. The Sundays cover is also really great, but I like the original more. I like the Chickateague. It's like an island in Virginia where they have actual wild horses just like running around. It's like in a park. I played that song because I felt fitting. I thought the song was based off of that, but of course it wasn't. Because who would? Why would Mick Jagger care about a small park in Virginia? It's more about like I think his personal life and like not spending time with his son. I think I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, good solid compilation album. I don't listen to it that much, but it's like when they're in the mood for it, why not? Next up, The Doors. I haven't listened to this one yet because I bought it pretty recently, but I love The Doors. Their album, it's the self-titled album. It's like the one with like Jim Morrison's face, and he's like, and the three of them are in the little background. I don't know the other three names. I'm not that big of a Doors fan, but I like that album a lot. It's like the one with The End. I love their song, The End. It was in Apocalypse Now. That's where I heard it, and it's also I'm pretty sure in the game Last of Us Part 2, like the ending sequence when Ellie's like at the place. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but that song is really amazing. It's like 10 minutes of just like wonderful poetry and great music, and it doesn't get old. This one, I haven't listened to it yet actually, so I can't really say, so I'm excited to listen to it. I like the album. The red pops out a lot, and I think Jim Morrison, I think he's good. I know it's kind of like debated, is he an actual good poet, songwriter, or is he kind of like a douche almost? From what I've heard, I like his lyrics, so I'm excited to give this a go. Alright, two more left. Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits. I got into Bob Dylan pretty recently, kind of around the time the movie came out. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a lifelong fan, because I haven't been, but I saw the movie, and I was like, this music's pretty good. And I've gotten very much into his work since. This is the cheapest cassette I could find on eBay. It was like $10 maybe. I don't want to spend a lot of money. And it's Bob Dylan Greatest Hits, so I was like, I wanted to get like a full album of his, because I prefer listening to like full albums and like compilations. But I mean, you have Rainy Day Woman, number 12 and 35, Blown in the Wind, The Times They Are Changing, and Me Babe, like Rolling Stone, side 1. Side 2, Mr. Tambourine Man, Subterranean Homesick Blues, I Want You, Positively, 4th Street, Just Like a Woman. I mean, they're all amazing, incredible songs from his earlier period of his career. None of his like newer stuff. I like the album Blood on the Tracks. That's a good album. 78, I think it came out. Tangled Up in Blue is a great song, but that's not on here, so why would I talk about it? But yeah, Greatest Hits. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, there's a reason. Like before I started listening to Bob Dylan, I was like I listened to a couple some of his songs, like The Times They Are Changing and stuff like that. I'm like, it's fine, I'm not that big into folk music though, but I mean, it transcends folk music at a certain point. If you watch the movie, like when he gets when he goes electric and like the crowd goes crazy because he's playing with like an electric guitar. Okay, such like an important artist, and his lyrics I find just incredible. I think hearing it now, like after so much time has passed, it doesn't diminish it, but it's like, well, I've heard this before in more modern music because he almost like invented that. Not he didn't invent it, but like he pioneered that type of songwriting. So when you hear it now, it's like for the first time, it's not as impactful because like you've heard it in your music, but really he was the one who started it. It's kind of like when I feel with the movie Boogie Nights, Paul Thomas Anderson, yeah, PTA. Or so many movies these days try to emulate that feeling and just like the film, like that, the vibe of it, like these characters hanging around, like all these different plots coming together, kind of like with Babylon. Babylon is basically the Damien Chazelle film, is basically Boogie Nights, but 1920s Hollywood. Even the Tobey Maguire sequence is basically the same thing as the Alfred Molina one in that film. And so I watched Boogie Nights. I thought it was good, of course, but like I've seen this movie before, and that's no fault of Boogie Nights because I mean it pioneered that. It was like, obviously it wasn't the first type of film like that, but like it was a big hit, like especially in the American audiences who haven't seen like more foreign films and may emulate that more before that PTA may have been inspired from. So I kind of feel like the same thing with Bob Dylan, but I mean his music's still incredible and it's still very unique still, even though people have tried to kind of like not rip it off but emulate his sound. Incredibly unique, incredibly wonderful, beautiful voice. And it's just amazing how young he was when he wrote so many of these songs. Like this what is it called, the Freewheelin' Silent or Bob Dylan, that his first like big album, so many songs about like love and like relationships, and he's like a 22-year-old kid who like grew up in Minnesota. I'm like, how many relationships have you been in, like no shade though. So I mean, amazing, great I can't stop listening to it. Like, I'm listening to it on repeat for the past like week. So, last one we have Tracy Chapman, self-titled album. I remember the first song I've heard from her was Fast Car. I think most people, or a lot of people, could probably say the same thing because that's like her biggest hit, and especially now with the Luke Combs cover, which is fine. But I don't see why you listen to that when you have the original, because her voice is so much like stronger and emotional and resonating. Well, I'm not. It's not shade on Luke Combs. I'm pretty sure this guy made it. I don't know any of these country modern artists. But I mean, this album. Remember the first time I heard it, I thought it was a dude singing. Same thing happened for my friend who listened to it for the first time as well. That's just kind of a funny story. Nothing else to add into that. But I want to listen to their song like Fast Car and like what's it, thinking about talking about Revolution. But then I found this at my local record store, and I was like, well, I gotta pick it up, $5. Listen to the full album, and it is a really incredible album. So many great topics about like change, revolution, that kind of relates to today, what America's going through, especially kind of like with the whole like Luigi thing, and just the awful time period we're living right now, and where did this sentiment go? You know, kind of relates to Bob Dylan too, but like how it was like the different generation, you know, wanting things to change. Now we end up here in America today where it's so stagnant and it's changing in the wrong way, you know. And so many insightful lyrics about inequality, just like this system. I don't want to say like the system, but you know, like the system. I love the song "For My Lover." That's a really beautiful song. Mentions Virginia, so that's cool. She's got her ticket. Why? No, she's got her ticket. Yeah. It's a really great album. Baby, I Can Hold You. A lot of variation too. A little more like goes in certain points goes like into more a little more mainstream kind of like Baby, I Can Hold You. I kind of feel like that, but also she doesn't like shy away from her own unique voice. It definitely shows in her lyrics. Cause I don't think a lot of like mainstream artists were singing about these things at the time. Or just a lot of mainstream artists don't sing about this stuff these days. And coming from like a black voice, it's very impactful and just a wonderful album. Pretty sure it's her debut album. Her performance, like when Stevie Wonder pulled out at Wembley, I'm pretty sure was. I can't stop watching that video. Amazing album. So that's my collection. Pull them back in for a second so you can see them all again. Where is this one? It's falling out. Those are the cassettes. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.